What's the worst experience you've had with a roommate? Story 1. Shared a quad in college with a girl named Monica. She was fine in the beginning but then began doing things like hiding the toilet paper, trying to limit how much time we spent in the shared living room, allowed a homeless man to sleep on the sofa and hoarded cutlery. She decided she wanted to be a vampire and had her teeth filed into points. At the end of the year we started referring to her as Demonica. Reply. A little Demonica in my afterlife, a little bit of rigor causing strife, a little bit of Mina in the sun. If Monica tried that, she'd be done. Story 2. Dude killed my pet rabbit because he was jealous of the time I spent with it. Needless to say, he stopped being my roommate that day. Reply. As a rabbit owner, this makes me absolutely furious. Bunnies are wonderful creatures and I can't imagine intentionally causing one harm. Reply 2. A roommate tried to murder my cat in front of me while I was fucked up on shrooms. I broke an unopened 1.75L bottle of vodka over his head, hospitalized him. Not sure that was the right course of action, and oh boy was it a shit storm in my life. Worked out in the end. Do I wish I could have done something less brutal? Yeah, but he was 300 pounds and I was 115 or so, was gaunt and my kitty was crying for help, so I went full parent mode. Might have been wrong. I wish it could have been dealt with better, though I'm not sure there was another option. Do I feel guilty though? My beloved kitty is still with me over a decade later, so no. Story 3. I let my boss crash at my second apartment about 15 years ago. It was a shitty timeshare call center where everyone did drugs and were pretty everyman types, so he and I were more friends than coworkers. Anyway, he loses his apartment and asks to stay with me for a couple months while he gets back on his feet, and I agree. He's a great dude. Kind, smart, funny, confident, and a solid approximately 350 lb. I only mention the weight because it's relevant to the negative experience. So around a month into staying with us, he decides to get clean from his crippling opioid addiction. He's decided to cold turkey from a 20-a-day 10 mg hydrocodone habit, which, for the uninitiated, is pretty intense. I advised rehab, but he elected to lie on the couch in my living room for weeks, costing him his job, sweating his ass off and shaking under a blanket. The reason why his size was relevant: he sweat a lot already, and had to take pains to mitigate his body odor on normal days, with varying degrees of success. But with the withdrawals and being mostly sedentary on that textile couch for weeks, the apartment started to smell like a hot-ass forest. It was a party house with a revolving door, and people just kinda stopped coming during his tenure there. Even with my bedroom down the hall's door closed, the stench was pervasive. It wasn't his fault. I liked the man, and he was trying to better himself in his life, so I put up with it. And he succeeded. Got himself a new place in the agreed time frame, stayed clean, and everything was hunky-dory. After he moved out, my actual roommate and I carried the couch to the parking lot dumpster, and it took several days to air out the smell. We even did a thermal fog with an oil-based cherry-scented counterfactant, and it still didn't help. Kinda irrelevant, but just an addendum. We stayed in touch for a while back when I still had Facebook, and he got his life together. Got a good job as a realtor, lost a lot of weight, had a baby girl, found religion or whatever. Then after a few years of being off Facebook and radio silence, I get a call from my old roommate saying that he'd relapsed and died from a heroin overdose. Pretty fucked. Rip Dawn. Reply. Damn, I was so excited for this guy. What a sad ending. Thanks for being a great person to him. Reply 2. Damn, that twist made me mad. Don't ever fuck with opiates, kids. Story 4. I lived in a house with a guy who let his friend hide from the cops in our basement. The friend had shot and killed 2 people in a robbery. Reply. What the fuck? I'm assuming the guy got arrested. Did anything happen to your roommate? OP reply. Yeah, he got arrested when a SWAT team kicked in the door. The roommate had to leave. Story 5. Freshman year of college, she came back drunk night 5 and pissed on our carpet and some of my clothes. Then in the morning she denied all of it despite the room smelling like piss. She would have random guys over constantly and fuck them with me in the room, even though she had a BF. She ended up getting arrested twice during the first semester. She had painkillers that were not hers and she got a marijuana charge LMAO. She was pure chaos and ended up in academic poor standing since she literally never went to class. The second semester her parents required her to come home every single weekend, so it made things much nicer. Lol. Reply. My freshman college roommate was constantly having sex in our room. Managed to have 3 abortions in short order, the pill, and never changed the pad-filled trash can under her desk. Walking into our room was like walking into a wall of blood stench. I got really sick my last week of school and my mom came to visit and help me. I had told her all of these things, but you probably assume your 19-year-old daughter is exaggerating. Nope. My mom and I went to get some clothes from my room. I stopped at the bathroom on the way, and my mom got a full view of some bare teenager ass slamming my roommate. She got me a hotel room for my last few days of finals, and I never had to see her again. Preacher's daughters, am I right? Story 6. I called to ask if he had his half of the rent and he informed me that he was on I-95, headed back to his hometown of Virginia. Dude cleared his shit out of the apartment and dipped with no warning. Reply. Had a similar thing happen years ago. Shared a house with 2 guys. One of them not from the country. One day he says he's going home to visit family, and that he'll be back in a week. Anyway, he never returned and one day we got a key in our mailbox. Thankfully the landlord was understanding and gave us time to find someone new to move in before collecting the rent that month. Story 7. Dude kept falling asleep while smoking cigarettes. I got mad every time and woke him up. He bought me a fire extinguisher at a yard sale one day. He thought it was best joke ever. He fell asleep on night on the couch. Cigarettes rolled off onto the carpet. Carpet caught fire, couch caught fire, his shirt catches fire. He never woke up. I woke up, having smelled it. Grabbed his gag gift and put it all out. His shirt and hair were gone. He was okay. Never even went to the hospital, but he absolutely would have died if I hadn't been there and had that fire extinguisher beside my bed. I moved immediately. Reply. Dude saved his own life with that fire extinguisher. Story 8. You know Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory? Exactly like that guy, but nowhere near as smart, but condescending, insulting, with boundary issues. Was there for 2 months and had to get out, or would have ended up with assault charges. Reply. Holy hell, I had one similar. The dude was a total weeb, so he thought it was smart, but he was just a dick who would interrupt everyone with, well, actually. He would stay up at all hours watching anime and eating the loudest snacks possible while laughing periodically. Imagine trying to sleep at 4 a.m. and hearing, hoo 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 ha, every minute. He smacked his girlfriend while drunk at a convention and got charges. Story 9. He shit on the carpet while making eye contact. Still a good boy though. My dog. Reply. I read somewhere that they look at you because it makes them feel safer because pooping puts them in a vulnerable state. No idea if it's true. But doesn't it make up for shitting on the carpet anyway? Story 10. First night in the new shared apartment I was renting, my landlord slept on the floor in my living room on a rug. I thought that was weird, but I was not in a position to argue, as I really needed a place to live. Then, over the next couple of months, my landlord moved in and brought over 8 family members from Turkmenistan, including a newborn baby, and they all lived in 2 bedrooms, and by bedrooms I mean one was the living room. When I complained, they locked me out of the apartment. I called the police who let me in and scolded the family. It was a nightmare. I finally got out of there and never looked back. Story 11. She poisoned my food. She started out with harmless pranks like putting salt in my jello before it set. Then she put bleach in my pasta water like I wouldn't fucking smell bleach noodles. She would steal my underwear, wear them during that time of the month, and put them back in my underwear drawer unwashed. I spent years fucked up. Being afraid of food and people. I already had a bad relationship with food because of my mom. This made it so I wouldn't eat at restaurants, or my friends' food they cooked to share, or eat anything that wasn't in a tightly sealed package. Reply. You should have pressed charge WTF, it's almost a murder attempt. Bleach could have killed you. Why letting people like that roam free? Imagine she has done exactly that to another person and that person is dead or now disabled cause of eating bleach. Someone does that to me, that person will get KTFO and multiple times law. Story 12. I was in a motorcycle accident and spent a month in the hospital. My roommate took my rent money and spent it on cocaine. I came home barely able to walk to find an eviction notice on the door. He OD'd a couple years later. His 10-year-old son found him on their kitchen floor. Story 13. Lived in a house share for 7 years, so have a few stories. 2 that are tied for the worst. First was a guy who had skin issues, refused to get help, shed flakes everywhere, shower, sink, toilet. Ended up in the washing machine too when he did his washing, which ultimately ended up in everyone else's clothes when they did washing. I felt sorry for the dude, super intelligent, kind, happy and friendly. Just didn't look after himself. Second was a guy who lied about his job, never went to whatever it was, and regularly got up during the early hours to randomly scream at the top of his lungs and bang all the walls, the floor and ceiling in his room to ensure it woke everyone up. Hated the dude for this, and hated the fact he used my car as a bench when he went out to smoke. Would roll his eyes at me when I politely asked him to not sit on my car. Reply. That sucks for that guy. I worked with a pizza guy who had skin issues. The savage would scratch his back with the paddle over his shirt during service. I snitched so fast. One day the owner drunk texted him at 2 p.m. saying, "You'll never be a pizza man, you lizard scaly fuck, you're disgusting." It legit made Kyle cry. I felt bad, but at the same time his scratching was nasty. Open kitchen handmade pizza shop. Kids love to watch us toss the pies, and this motherfucker would just scratch himself. We don't wear gloves making pizzas, we'd just wash our hands when the flour got caked up. Anyway, that was fucking nasty. Story 14. Female, let him stay with me because he was homeless. He would eat everything, not clean up after himself, and never paid for anything. He would always invade my personal space, try to kiss me, and even crawl into my bed. Finally I'd had enough and we went to puppy classes. He's fairly well behaved now but still has no respect for my personal space. Reply. Still sounds like a good boy. Story 15. He was just really dirty. His clothes were everywhere, there were old cereal bowls just crusted and stuck, it was disgusting. But here's the real kicker. My other roommate and I had to play mom, and tell him that if he didn't pick his shit up, we'd throw it all away. He didn't pick it up. So we went in there with a trash bag and started tossing everything in. When we lifted the mattress, one of those fake vagina sex toy things rolled out. Then, some fluid dripped out of it. Whatever the hell came out of that thing was so rotted that it made the entire apartment smell like something had died and the corpse was left for a few months. Clean roommate and myself had to open everything and leave for the rest of the day. The smell lingered for a few days after that. Last I heard of this dude, he was smoking a mixture of crack and heroin. Then stole some oil from the back of a truck. He's been Mia since. Story 16. He played League of Legends all night. If the game didn't go his way, he would scream in frustration and beat his fists on his desk, no matter what time of the night it was. It was difficult to get a full night's sleep with him roaring and pounding every few hours. He would also eat at his desk and broke several of the dishes I had bought for the apartment during his little tantrums. It gets worse though. Eventually he decided that he needed to be more alert during his marathon gaming sessions. Most people would invest in coffee or energy drinks, but no, he decided he needed to buy meth. He told us he was too smart to get addicted, but at that point I decided I'd had enough and noped on out. I took what remained of my dishes with me. Story 17. My best friend to this day. He decided he wanted to invite some folks over and do shrooms for the first time. I wasn't a fan of a lot of people over, but it was 4 ladies and I wasn't about to ruin a fun night for him. I was already with someone, so I planned on just staying in my room and checking in on everyone from time to time. Well, at some point I started hearing some wild ass sounds. I go into the living room and they had taken everything that was a circle and tossed it into a pile. Everything. I'm talking round fruits, pots and pans, lids to Tupperware, all 100 plus DVDs I had, you name it. The amount of stuff that was broken sent me into one of those rages where you go from red to just gray. I went and stayed at my girlfriend's place. The next day I get home and they were all fully naked asleep on the kitchen floor. He still apologizes to this day and it cracks me up because it's always the same line. I still feel terrible, but man, to this day that was the best night of my life. Hey, stop. You're awesome. Subscribe for more. Yo.